Hi, this is Isabel going live. So I wanted this session to be a Q&A session, meaning that I'm there to answer any questions that you have about Switzerland, about relocation, about work. So any questions that you have right now, feel free to ask me. I've actually taken questions from YouTube, from different people who asked me, about the Swiss market. So what I will do is give you replies here in this video for people who ask questions. And, if you come up on the streaming right now, I will check it and answer your questions. So I have a question from B. B is Norwegian. So hi, Isabel. I have 5 years resident permit in Norway. I want to relocate to Switzerland. I already got a job there, so congratulations. My question is, with the working contract, can Switzerland immigration grant me a work permit? Please, if you see my message, reply thanks. Okay, so the question here is, person received a job offer from Switzerland and asking about the work permit. So when you get a job offer, it's your employer's responsibility to issue a work permit for you. So that's the best way to come to Switzerland, is you have a job offer extended to you, and that's it. You don't have to worry about it. The employer does all the work. So they wouldn't have extended a job offer if they couldn't get you a work permit. So you don't have to worry about a thing. Your employer will contact you. They will let you know what kind of information they need from you so that they can start the process. It's going to be part of your onboarding, asking for different pieces of information about you, and that's it. So nothing to do on your end except celebrating your relocation, and hope everything goes well. Next question. I'm Romanian citizen, degree in physiotherapy. Would be difficult to find a job. Would it be difficult to find a job in this domain? So physiotherapy, you would just have to check. It's usually something that you do from a, an agency, or usually it's going to be several professionals working together in a space, in the same space, but it's something that's independent work. So you would just have to come to Switzerland, be an independent worker, set up office, etc. And then you could practice in Switzerland. I don't know what type of degree or diploma. You would just need to research it a little bit more. Physiotherapy, Switzerland. Use Google. A lot of you, the questions that you ask, you can find a lot of information via Quora, via Google, by searching and trying to find out what are the degrees. So what the checks you want to do when you want to relocate to Switzerland is, number one, check what kind of degrees are needed, what type of experience is needed, which parts of Switzerland would actually need those positions. So you do this by searching on Google, obviously with keywords, or you can use job boards as well. I will post again below the typical job boards that you can use to do your checks and type the type of occupation that you're looking for. But again, for physiotherapy, in my view, that's more of a freelancer type of activity, something that you do within your office, and it's not employment with an employer per se. Shokbala asked, any jobs in graphic design or graphic artist in Switzerland? So you would have to check also on job boards. Again, I'm not sure how many jobs are posted right now with graphic design, I guess it is. So again, do you have a certification on that, degree? Do you have experience? And again, experience is proven experience. So have you already worked for a company? Did you deliver projects? Do you have a portfolio of things that before and after type of thing in graphic design? So again, it's when you want to come to Switzerland, make sure you're coming with resources. You have a background track in your profession. You have references, you come with stuff, you're not just coming like, oh, hey, I'm here. Nice to meet you type of thing. I mean, the Swiss market is very demanding in terms of the level of qualifications and the type of profile that you bring to the country. So go there informed, go there prepared, do your research, make sure that you show also that you're invested in your job search and you take it seriously. Next question from Vijeta. Hi, is getting a job on dependent visa as difficult as getting a regular job in Switzerland? Does the condition apply for a person to be a special skilled worker, even to get a job on dependent visa, or there is a relaxation on that criteria for dependent visas holders of B? So it seems to me like you're looking at it as it's not as good to be to get a permit as a spouse or as a family reunion as it would be if you're a B permit because you have a job. So there's no discrimination. I mean, either you have a B permit or you don't. That's the criteria. Now, whether you got it from marriage or because you were employed already, who cares? I was going to say, you have a B permit or you don't. So if you have a B permit and you can work, then that's it. You know, you just submit your profile and that's it. But make sure you put on your resume that you have the B permit. That's the important part. Is permits are important in Switzerland. So they would always favor someone with a working permit as opposed to someone who doesn't have a working permit. So you want to make sure that you state on your resume that you are a holder or B permit, C permit, whatever permit you hold, make sure you state it on the resume. But if you have a C permit, that means you've been around for a while in Switzerland, so you don't need the information. Question number 5 from Hussein. I was wondering, is it better to study Bachelor of Business Administration in Switzerland or MBA in order to get a job? And what is the salary like for non-experienced people in business administration? So I'll answer that first part because there's lots of questions into one. So what you want to do is the first thing that you want to do, and I'll say this again because it's the most essential, is to look at the job market. So before you go and sign up for a course or for a program or for another MBA, which we already have too many people out there who have the general MBA, masters, etc. And again, it could make sense depending on your project, but I would say the market has a lot of master's program, but do you have a job linked to that? So before you go and jump into, I'll just get a master's in business administration, look at the job market and see what is in demand, because the MBA is something very general. And if you don't have the network in Switzerland to get into a company, then you're just going to be one person amongst the others. Whereas sometimes it makes more sense to be very specialized in something that's in high demand in Switzerland. So I would argue that someone who's a specialist in digital, in artificial intelligence, in data science with a very specific diploma, you know, could get a job easier than someone who's a very general MBA. So again, check the Swiss market, look at the job boards that I will post below. I know there's a lot of demand right now for Agile and for project management in Agile. So again, the digital space is growing right now in Switzerland. So think about whether the jobs you see online would be interesting for you and see what they require. So it's not necessarily the MBA. A lot of the companies are looking for practical people who have experience. So rather, you know, do something specific and try to do it in Switzerland, because you're always, it's better in terms of image if you have your degree from Switzerland to work in Switzerland than if you go from, you have your degree from the UK or for somewhere else. You're not going to be as attractive. So checkpoint number 1 is check the job market, see what's in demand. And checkpoint number 2 is try to do your certificate degree experience in Switzerland to have more traction on the Swiss market. So the latter part of the question is, what's the salary like for non-experienced people? It depends. You can go from the NGO to the multinational. They're not going to pay the same salary for the same job. So job bands are based on the type of function, the type of industry. So again, it's very, very different. That's part of your research when you want to get a job, to find out a little bit more about salaries. But you first need to know a bit more where you're looking, what kind of job. So when you're at the status where you don't even know which kind of education, it's too early to worry about how much my salary would be. What you want to do is say, okay, what am I interested in? Is there market need for that? And how much is the going rate within one country in general? But you're not going to get a very specialized type of salary, because again, it depends. But just know that companies have salary bands that they work with, so they don't pay you out of nowhere. You know, they have to follow a structure of salaries. But the first thing for you, I would say, you say in your message, since I'm a foreigner, can I get paid as well as Swiss people? I think all these are not necessarily mental space that you need to worry about. I think, again, for the beginning, you're 21, you say in your message here, start with understanding a little bit what you like. Is there a market need for that? You know, and then you look at schools a little bit, what they offer based on what you want in Switzerland or elsewhere, if you can't go to school in Switzerland. But worry first about having a job. So going into a market where there's needs, and then you can worry about how much you get paid and all that. But if you pick a good field, meaning if you pick a field where there's a lot of demand and salaries tend to pay very well, then you won't have to worry about it. For example, if a student comes to me now and say, I want to study data science, you know, is that a good choice? What is my salary going to be? I will say, don't worry about it. Just study data science, become a good professional. The salary will follow. So I'll change the whole thing about do what you love and the money will follow. I will say, do what the market needs and the money will follow. So if you're someone that's in high demand, you're a specialist in a field that's in high demand, you won't have to worry about salary because you will get paid very well. So that's how you need to think about it. Don't think about salary at the beginning. Think about the problem you can solve for the market. And I'll add below a video that was done with Elon Musk. And I think it's an excellent video where he talks about solving problems. And that's really where it comes to what kind of problem can you solve in this world, and then the money will follow. So you have to look at it from a different perspective. I have a question that came up in the chat, so I'll just make a quick break from my list. Alex Peter is saying, hi, if I were to get a degree from a university in Switzerland, would it make easier to get a job as a non-citizen? Okay, that's actually linked to what I'm explaining right now. So yes, coming to Switzerland, getting a degree in Switzerland is always better. But again, there's no 100% guarantee. So I've seen both people who manage to get an internship and then get a job. It depends on your type of degree. I would do something very technical. And again, going back to digital, data science, artificial intelligence, biotech, engineering. So if you do those, I would say your chance is a bit higher because that's where the market is going now. So if you look at EPFL, all these schools, you know, in Switzerland that are technical schools or engineering schools, if you get a degree from there, I would say you increase your chances a little bit to get an internship because they will need those skills and to turn that into a job. But, you know, again, a degree from a Swiss university in a technical field, I think would be very easy to sell anywhere after that. So even if you were to not get a job because of whatever reason, permit issues and so forth, you could always get a job in your country of origin, maybe, because it will be valued. Because if you have knowledge in engineering, in data science, in artificial intelligence, you will be picked up anywhere because your knowledge is transferable anywhere. Of course, Switzerland would make sense if you want to work there, but sometimes it doesn't work out for everybody. It's not 100% as a non-EU because the company would have to justify why they hire you. And the market will be a bit tighter next year due to what we're going through right now. So it can happen, but I don't say it's 100%. So you just have to assess, you know, is it worth it? Also look at, can you afford it? And all these things would be my answer. So next question I have here, I'm a non-European. Will it be easy? And that's a question from Mark Song. I have a question. I'm a non-European citizen. Will it be easy for me to find a job in the banking sector with a CFA certificate? Well, as a non-European in banking, it's, again, as I say on my website, if you're non-European, your only two options right now is the international organizations like the United Nations or, you know, artificial intelligence, tech, and all these things, because banking, there's lots of people who can work in banking who are locals, who are European. So they're not going to bring someone with a CFA non-EU to do a job that can get a person anywhere. So The only time, again, they would get a non-EU for those other industries is if you're, for example, you work for a Swiss bank where you're located and they have an opening in Geneva or in Zurich and they relocate you internally. And then they would process your paperwork internally. That's the only reason. But for you to apply from an outside perspective to a bank would be a bit of a waste of time, I think. So if you really want to come to Switzerland, maybe look at international organizations. Would there be a job for you in a finance function or something like that, where you could use accounting? Or, I mean, international organizations always hire finance people, accounting, operations, all that. So that's where I would look if you really want to relocate. But other than that, it's not going to be possible. Next question. I'm 19 and British. I want to move to Switzerland and work there. What jobs are available and what skills and experience qualifications are required? So right now I only have a business administration level 1, working towards a level 2, but I was set back due to COVID-19. What or qualification should I work towards and get my goal? To get as many qualifications as possible. I don't know which one would help get me. Well, I would say watch the Elon Musk video that I will post below. Solve a problem on the market. Learn how to add value to the market rather than just say, I'm just going to get a BA because I don't know what else to do. And it's just going to keep me busy until I'm a bit older and look for the job there. So that's just a gap filler, but it's not going to add more value. So I would strongly discourage young people to go for something that's very mainstream, like a BA or an MBA. At this stage, it's too mainstream. So do something a little bit more focused that the market needs right now. So because companies are all going towards digitalization and need to get better in a lot of areas, including data protection, cybersecurity. They need people who are good with again, being the company of the 21st century. So what kind of value can you add in the future for this company? So going for yet another BA is not going to do much for them. So rather, I would prefer that you look into the Swiss job market and see, okay, these are the positions that are in high demand. So let me train for that. If you can afford, again, to go to Switzerland to train, then you increase your chances to get a job locally. But if you can't afford it, maybe you can study back in your home country and come with something very strong. So what kind of qualification, you ask me? Come with something that's highly technical, highly in demand. Again, I said it earlier in this streaming, anything in tech, anything in digital, artificial intelligence, engineering. I've done some other videos that you may want to look at in my YouTube channel. I've done videos, and I will post the link also below about the jobs that are wanted. Again, data science, all these things. I will post that below. And I will also post below a video I've done on the Swiss market, the top trends and all that. So that gives you information on where to go in the future. So if you're young right now, I would say you need to understand a few things. You need to understand that we're in a new economy. We are shifting towards this new economy. It's going highly digital. It's going to be highly technical. So the degrees that you were getting before, maybe 10 years ago, that your parents received, like me, for example, and I'm talking to a 20-year-old who's maybe listening to this podcast or this streaming, the parent, like myself, would have studied a BA in administration and an MBA. But that was 10, 15 years ago when companies were still recruiting those kinds of profiles. But now things are getting much more technical, and the type of skills that companies need now need to be a bit more technical. So if you want to get the best jobs, the high-paying jobs, and you don't want to struggle too hard to find a position and all that, go for something highly technical so that you know that you're going to be valued, you're going to be in demand. Right now, software engineering is huge for companies, so you don't have to struggle then to find a job. Or the other thing is to be very good. For example, people who are not so much in the tech part, but maybe more in the creative part, then graphic design, or something that's, again, the customer experience, like UX All these things are actually also in demand right now. So try to do something that's not necessarily long-term education, but very, very specialized education. But you need to find what this is. I can't tell you do this because it's your personality, what you like. So go on job boards, go on job boards and see what companies need. And then based on that, you say, okay, well, I don't like that. I don't like that. Okay, maybe I'll go for that. And by the time you graduate in a couple of years, then you have a job waiting for you rather than having a degree that you try to sell a company that they don't want it. So again, watch the video with Elon Musk. I think it's very telling of what the future is going to be like. And watch my videos on the market trends and the jobs, the in-demand jobs. I've done a special video for data science and all that. Okay, more questions popped up. Real is rare. I like that one. How can I get a job in Switzerland as a non-EU? What sectors are in high demand? So as a non-EU, as I said earlier, you're limited. You're limited to two things. I'll say it again. It's international organizations. So United Nations, the Red Cross, all that. You can check the jobs there. And tech. So it's either or. If you're non-EU, there's no other alternative. So other alternatives would be too hard to get from abroad unless you marry someone and you get a family reunion permit. Then it's a different story. But if you're going to work to apply from abroad, these are the only two markets. And again, I would say big question mark on tech, because even if you're a very good tech person, they're not going to go through the paperwork for you. It's going to be still a lot for a company to do just to have you come on board. I was saying earlier, if you study in Switzerland and you get a degree from Switzerland and you get an internship, then maybe it's a way, again, maybe with a big question mark there, that you can get something that way. But you would need to study in Switzerland to get that. So I would even say there's only one way for non-EU, which would be the international organization. So again, the United Nations, you can check their openings, the Red Cross, all that. They're all listed there. Go on UNJOBS.org and you see all the positions, whether your profile could be transferable to a UN position. But that's it. As a non-EU, if you're not studying in Switzerland and try to go that route, the UN is your only possibility. So Alexander is saying, great channel. Thank you, Alexander. Writing from Sweden. Plan to move to Zurich in 3 years. Plan to take trips and start networking in June. Is it too soon? What do you recommend to start networking in Zurich? I mean, IT security. Okay, so Alexander, the good news is you are in in-demand sector, IT security. So that's great. And being from Sweden, I guess you have a European nationality, so a company can get a permit a bit easier for you. So those are two good news. It's never too early to start networking. I would say start networking when you're in school still. I mean, your network is going to be there for you your whole career. So it's actually better to start earlier, because then people, you build the relationship first, and then people are more inclined to talk to you because you've built that rapport. Whereas if you say, okay, I need to network now to get a job now, people are going to sense that you're waiting for something from them, and they're not going to like it, that you're there just to get something. So the sooner you start, it's great to start soon. I always encourage people, especially on relocation, to start soon, because you have time to plan. You have time to check. It's great that you're taking a trip. Then you can check, okay, what's the city like? What's the price of renting apartments there, or food, or what kind of salary would I need to sustain myself? So you're doing a bit your research. And by starting networking at that point, you're really building your basis for your move. So it's great that you're doing that. I think I would encourage everybody to do the same. Take trips, even several trips back and forth. When you're still inquiring, you're still getting more information, and you can adjust also to see what organizations want. Start your networking, ask a lot of questions, sign up for a lot of things, come for a week or so, and just try to be very present on the market. So I would say what you're doing is the right way. It's the way to do it when you want to relocate, rather than to come first, be in Switzerland, and then say, oh, okay, well, now I have to pay rent. Oh, now I have to find a job. and you're not prepared for that. So it's stressful. So that's, thank you for the question. It was great. Okay, thank you. Now I've got, next question is, I want to study English teaching. So that's from S. I want to study English teaching, and one of the things that worries me is finding a job there, since I'm going to move there from another country. Lots of love from Turkey. Okay, so someone from Turkey is saying, I want to study English teaching. So as a Turkish national, you're not part of EU, so that's going to be, again, we go back to non-EU, it's always a little bit complicated, so especially in teaching. So I go back to what I've been saying since the beginning, the United Nations. What could you do with English speaking skills, English teaching? I'm not sure. I don't see an immediate match, because the UN would be more diplomacy, operations, people who are expert in different fields like immunology, if it's health, war zones and so forth. So it's very, very specific, the international organizations. So I don't see an immediate fit for English teachers. Unless you use your English, you're very good in English, and maybe you take another diploma that's going to be more focused, that you can check with the UN JOBS.org to see a little bit what kind of jobs you could target and what you still need to work on to apply for these positions, and to train yourself on that, so that by the time you apply, you have a chance to be selected. But again, you would look at your profile just like a non-EU, even though technically you're in the European continent. But within European continent, now we have Turkey that's outside of Europe. We have the UK at the end of the year. So it's going to make things a bit more, it's a bit more challenge when you apply in Switzerland, because they would only consider European, part of the European Union type of countries to get a work permit. So next question. I want to understand job opportunities in life insurance, sales, general management, etc. And that's a question from Ananta. So I think it's, again, the same theme during the streaming, is that anything that's not highly technical is not highly, not a high chance in terms of selling your profile. So I completely understand a lot of people have great experiences. They've done a lot of things. They're qualified in different topics. But for the Swiss market, as a foreigner, it's not going to be necessarily an immediate match. So again, people who are living and working in Switzerland for many years and that are part of these mainstream, I call that, positions. So they're your finance person, your marketing, your HR, you're working in insurance, in banking. So all these professionals that are already in Switzerland, have their network, have been working there for many years, they will get those positions filled. And especially now, I think more and more companies will have to circulate the job offers with the unemployment office first. So now they're adding more professions to that rule. So it's going to make it even more stringent. But again, yeah, I would say those professions, there are already many in Switzerland. And worst case scenario, let's say you couldn't find anyone locally, you have friends, so you have French people, you have Germans, and you have enough with the neighboring countries where you would get candidates, basically. So there's no lack of, it's not a dry market, to use the language in terms of recruitment. We don't have a dry market in terms of those positions in Switzerland. Now, where there's a dry market, and that's where foreigners need to focus, is, again, the technical fields. There's another side that I didn't mention because I'm more focused on professionals, but people working in hospitals right now. If you're a nurse, if you're you work in hospitals and so forth, that's in high demand right now. Again, they would prefer Europeans first. So I'm not going to say if you're non-European, you can enter with the medical field, because there's diploma issues and certificates. So even there, it's complicated. So I don't even want to get there because again, it's a different thing. But I think for foreigners, again, if you don't want to worry about your diploma not being valid, which could be the case in medical, and you have to retrain yourself, go for something that is very, very highly portable. And again, the tech field has that benefit, is that it's portable. If you're a software engineer, you can work in Switzerland, but let's say you want to move, you can work in the US, you could work in anywhere. Because you build up your experience. And if you're very good, I can be pretty sure that a lot of tech companies all over the world would want you in their staff. So focus about doing something that's highly transferable, highly technical, that you can carry with you, so that if one market stops hiring, you can go to another market and you can move around the world and take your skills with you. That's the 21st century way of looking at the job space. So either you work for yourself, which is always difficult, especially when you're still discovering the job market and not necessarily having the idea. And you need to find a job with a company, just like many people when you start your career. So you just have to offer those companies what they would want. And I'm looking at also the future, because if you're a student now, in 2020, you're looking at entering the job market in the next maybe 2, 3, 4 years, depending the length of the degree. So the market will be even a bit different in 3 or 4 years. You have to see a little bit with what we have right now, the highly digitalized, highly technical fields. It's not going to get better. It's going to probably be even more so. So you want to anticipate that when you invest money in a degree, that you have to find something on the job market in 3 to 4 years. So unless you're in those highly technical jobs, the job market is going to be very dry. So you don't want to be, again, with a very generalist degree in 4 years and, having spent and invested money. So the easy way to do it is actually the hard way, is to choose to make the hard decisions. I'm going to study something that's very complicated, that's going to take a lot of energy and time. But then by the time I graduate, I will be wanted. I will be in demand. Because if I'm not in demand, then that's going to be a problem. And again, I don't want to start the conversation about what is the market going to be like for all the people that don't have high demand skills in 4 or 5 years. That's a political question that I don't even want to touch here. But rather than to be in that space, I would say try to, if you're young, you don't have a degree yet, and you have to choose, go for the technical field. So again, I'll post all that below. So I think I've got all the questions answered. Any more from the chat maybe that you want to ask me? Since it's the all you can ask. Feel free to post your question now. I will just pull it up. So again, to be remembered from this streaming is if you're non-EU, especially because I have a lot of people that are watching who are not in Europe, if you're non-EU, focus on building a skill wherever you are in the world. Build your skills first, skills that are in demand all over the world at the moment. And then you can assess which market will be willing to relocate you if you want to be relocated. But you can't really be attractive for a country and be relocated if you don't have the skills that they highly want. So you have to build that first. So wherever you are, build those skills first. Don't over focus on Switzerland, knowing that it's a hard country to get into, even if you're highly technical. So, if you have the in-demand skills, maybe you can find a country that's just as attractive as Switzerland with those skills. So I wouldn't focus so much on the country as opposed to being employable long-term. So if you have great skills that are in demand a little bit all over the world, you can always find a place to work, and it doesn't really matter where. Because again, Switzerland for non-EU is not necessarily a number one possibility unless you're in the not-for-profit world, United Nations world, and that's a different story. And then maybe you can find ways, or you study in Switzerland, and again, maybe you manage to get an internship and get hired. But I don't want to present it like it's a normal thing or a logical thing. It's more of an exceptional thing. So So yeah, maybe you heard of that one person who studied in Switzerland and managed to get an internship, and you get all excited. But again, it's a one-off. So the one-off is not the rule. So I hope this was helpful for you. Just a quick Q&A. I wanted to be back because I've been away, been quite busy. So please leave me in the comments the type of information that you'd like to hear more of as I'm going to prepare for upcoming videos. So I'm just right now going through the type of topics that people will want to hear about and come up with new videos. Also invite guests to have some conversations on streaming, just like I had before. I think that would be helpful as well. So just wanted to say that I'm alive. I'm here. It's just sometimes with the workload, it gets a little bit complicated to do videos, help clients. And I did a boot camp on last weekend that was quite intense as well. So trying to keep all the balls in the air right now gets a little bit a lot sometimes. So I've got Alexander who says, do you have any recommendations for which platform to use to learn Swiss German? For languages, so I have a few links that we'll post below. There's Berlitz is a school where they teach you all kinds of languages. So you can find that easily. I don't have a preferred platform. If you type on Google, learning Swiss German in Zurich, I'm sure you will find a lot of schools there. And then you just compare what they offer, the price, the program, see what makes the most sense. Yeah, you have to do your own comparison because I don't have a preferred provider, so to say. I have someone I know in Geneva, but she's more on the French side, and I'll post her link below as well for people who want to learn French. I think she's got a great website. But for Swiss German, I don't have a preferred provider. I can give you names of schools, but it's research also on your price, what you're willing to invest and all that. But I don't have a go-to person for Swiss German in Zurich that I've worked with or know well, all that. But yeah, it's recommended definitely that you learn the local language. That's also a huge plus for your application. So if you're going to move to the French part, make sure you start investing in learning French. And again, it doesn't have to be in Switzerland. You could learn German or French in your home country. There's also schools there. There's online courses at the moment. It doesn't matter where you learn it. I think the idea is to start getting the skills. So invest in learning French, in learning German, even if it's just little by little. So even taking online courses where you learn a little bit every day, and you go through the different levels at your own pace. But at least you're going through the motions. You're starting, because it's going to make a difference in your application if you say you're studying French or you're studying Swiss German, as opposed to someone who's doing nothing. But just be aware that for some positions, they will require fluency in English and French or German. So for certain positions, you will need first to have the B2 minimum level before you can be taken into account. So you just have to look in the job description, how much emphasis do they put on languages? Is it just a nice to have, or is it a requirement? If it's a requirement, then unfortunately, until you have that B2 level, you can't apply. Otherwise, they will find out. So, but that's a good question about languages. It's a huge factor in the decision making of the company. People who have the language skills will always be first, as opposed to someone who is not there yet, who still needs a little bit of training, and they would always favor the bilingual or very, very advanced knowledge of the local language. Well, it was great questions that I had today. Fantastic. Maybe I'll do these. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy these Q&A sessions where I answer questions from the messages, because I get so many questions. So I just regroup them and answered live. So let me know if you like this format, and you can also participate in the Q&A. I usually try to post the streaming in advance so that people know it's coming and they can make themselves free for that session. But yeah, feel free to post, Would you like to see more of those Q&As? Would that be helpful for your project to relocate to Switzerland or elsewhere? Okay, I've got Dionysos says one question. Okay, if you have one question, I'm all ears. I'll just give you time to type it. Can we get work permission when we live currently in France, for example, or we should live in Switzerland, I guess, to get it? Can we get work permission? So work permit you only get when you have a job offer. So it doesn't really matter where you live, if you're in France or in Switzerland, until you have that job offer, you can't get it. So it doesn't really matter where you live. Now, just be aware that, again, it's always better if you live in Switzerland to get a job offer. But, if you live in France, doesn't really make a difference. I mean, you'd be considered a EU national, and if they have needs for your particular field of expertise, and they don't find anyone local that has the skills, then maybe they would offer you a job, especially if you live in the border of France, near Switzerland. A lot of people live in the French border and go to work in Geneva, for example. That's very common. So, yeah, it's possible. But again, I think now, as the market is getting a little bit tighter, it's always better to be in Geneva already or in Switzerland, because they would always prefer people with the Swiss address. So it's the same thing as languages. It's like, if you ask me, how do I maximize my chances of getting a job offer? Swiss address and work permit already. So that's the ideal. Now, if you don't have the work permit already, you're not living in Switzerland already, you're not going to be top percent of selection, because again, they prefer those. But you can still look at the job description, see, whether it's necessary to live in Switzerland. I know for some professions like finance, for example, or banking, they do want you to live in Switzerland, and they will state it that you need to have a residence in Switzerland. But I see more and more of that now, where they prefer people living in Switzerland already, and you will see that clearly out there. So it's just something I wanted to mention. The market is getting tighter, and especially if you don't have those highly technical skills, the relocation to Switzerland now is getting a bit tighter. So you just have to be aware of that when you make your choices. And again, for some of you who are listening, if you have the option to live in Switzerland, if you really, really want to live and work there, always better to have a residence there, or maybe if you know a friend who lives there, and you can spend sometimes exactly the same way I think it's Alexander is doing it, take some trips, get your feet wet with the Swiss market to see what it's like, the cost of living, the market opportunities, the networking, to see if it's really worth, because it's a lot of investment also. If you're going to study something, you're going to invest a lot in your job search in Switzerland. So you want to make sure it's something you really want. And the best way to know this is to go to a country. I mean, I couldn't, for example, maybe it's my personality, but I couldn't imagine wanting to relocate somewhere until I actually have been there. I like the culture. I could see myself live there. I have people I know. So they could be the greatest places, but until I know a bit more about it, I don't know if I would want to live and work somewhere. It's a big time. It's a big chance that you take. And again, Switzerland, there's also things that sometimes are a bit surprising for non-locals that they didn't expect. So you just have to be aware of the whole thing and see if it fits your culture, if it fits your style. If I know a lot of people, realize that things do close early in Switzerland, so it's a different lifestyle basically. The Swiss permit is not based. So Dionysos is saying, if we have a friend or family, but the address is not in our name, can it work? to get a work permission and job. The work permit, you need to get a job offer. So let's be clear on that. So it's not a question of having an address. It's getting a job offer. Now, what you're saying, is it better from a marketing perspective to use somebody's address? Now, if it's a good friend or family member that you're very close to and they don't mind that you use their address, then you can do that. You can use somebody's address in Switzerland to get, maybe a bit more traction from a marketing perspective. Obviously, you would have a phone number that's outside of Switzerland, so it may not work so well. I think you could try to use it to see if you get at least an inquiry, because the first inquiry usually would be by email. So maybe you try to use it, maybe on one set of CVs, you try to put your friend's address or your family member's address, see if you get a bit more traction, is the word I'm using. If it's the case, then great. Again, the only thing is that you won't have necessarily the phone number linked to the address. So they might question mark that, but it's worth trying for sure. I mean, it's always a bit better, because you could always say, yeah, you're in the process of moving and you don't have a phone number yet, but you have the address. So yeah, it could work. I think from a strategy perspective, using someone's address that you know very well, and again, they know you're using the address, all transparent, with all transparency there, it could help you to Swiss. I call that to Swissize your resume. To have an address is a great way. So it gives you more opportunity to get calls, to get attention from the Swiss market, but it's not the work permit yet. Work permit is at the end. When they extend the job offer, they want you to work for them, and then they will process the work permit. I got a negative answer for a job yesterday. They told me, okay. At this stage, we're focusing on applicants already in Switzerland with a Swiss passport or work permit to mitigate the cost and risk of an international relocation. Yeah, see, that's what I was afraid of, is that the market is tightening, especially with COVID-19. Now, a lot of companies are laying off as well, so they will need to place people that are already in Switzerland. So a lot of people will be signing up for unemployment, and what the government does in this case, and Switzerland is no exception, is they will make it so that companies hire people who are unemployed, because it's costing money to the government. So there will be incentives to hire locals and people who are unemployed, to get those numbers down. And also from a social perspective, you have locals that are unemployed, you want to provide for these people. So yeah, I think maybe they would also state it in some shape or form in the job description, maybe not as bluntly as what you're stating here, because it would be a bit too blunt to say we only want locals and stuff. I think from a communication perspective, it would be a bit negative. So they may say things like, EU, they would say sometimes EU and European members or something like that. They won't say it as bluntly, but they will say it in a way. So you have to really read closely at the job description, to read between the lines. They will make it shown if they only want locals in some form. So just pay attention to what it says, and also be aware that that will be the case probably in a lot of positions, that they will prefer locals for sure. So, and even if you're living on the other side of the border, you're still considered a relocation, even if you live 1 kilometer away from Geneva. So, yeah, that's why I really encourage people, and I've seen this trend also where they would focus more and more internally. So that's why I advise all my clients and all expats to relocate, to actually live in Switzerland. Of course, if you already have a job there, it's a little bit easier to go to the other side of the border, because you have the money and everything. But if you're very much focused on getting a job in Switzerland, it's better to live there in some form. So yeah, it's going to be very much focused internal. And I just want to be also myself transparent about this, because people who are watching my channel want to relocate to Switzerland right now is tough. So. Someone asked Sobashi saying, could you help me, like consultant for Kento Ticino also? Well, for you, I don't know what's your nationality. Again, if you're non-EU, same thing. You know, consulting I consider consulting, unless you're IT consulting in cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, all that. If you're a business consultant, it's not a high demand right now. So, and especially if you're non-EU, that's going to be even more complicated. So, again, if you see yourself as a non-tech type of profile, so Romanian, so you're part of EU. So it depends what kind of consulting then. If you're a tech consultant, I would say you have your chances. If you're non-tech, it's going to be more complicated. So but you have to be very, even if you're EU citizen, you have to be very, very motivated, because it's tough right now. So if you're EU, so I still don't know what kind of consulting you're saying. I'm the wife. I'm Romanian, and Julian is working with, I don't understand. So I don't know what kind of consulting. So Dionysos is saying, he's explaining the answer that he's received. So good luck with your career search. Congratulations on completing your MSc. Cover letter showed you had researched the role carefully, and we appreciate the time you took to apply. So that's great. You don't necessarily get so many details when you apply. So this is great that they took the time to explain why. And there's other markets. I mean, if you can apply, again, if you have a great background, and I guess that's also the message that I want people to get, is if you have a great profile, and maybe Switzerland is not the ideal place right now, but maybe you could find a job somewhere else where there would be more needs and the immigration would be a bit easier. So especially if you're young, don't focus on one location. When you're young, you want to be open for opportunities. You want to go where you'll be wanted and you get experience. So I would strongly suggest that when you're young, you need experience. So go where you're wanted, go where you can get some skills. And then maybe as time goes on and you realize you could have maybe different locations open to you, then you can choose more based on the lifestyle maybe that you want to have. But when you're very young and you start your career, focus on getting the skills, getting the experience first. And also when you get the experience, especially if it's in a high demand, highly respected type of region. So if you get great skills from the UK or from, a country where there's a reputation. So for example, someone who does finance in the banking area in London, that's great skills, great experience. And then they have a bit more leg room later on to apply a bit in different locations they love more. So in the beginning of your career, sometimes you just say, okay, I'm just going to work maybe in a city that's not what I want, but I'm going to get the experience, I'm going to learn the skills, and then I can be more in demand and go to locations that are a bit more attractive in my view. So it's a whole different way of looking at it, but it would be a pity, in my view, to focus on one specific location when you're young, because you have so much that you can offer. And again, Switzerland is a small country, so you have to remember that there's only so many jobs that are available in Switzerland, and you have to have the right profile. Just talked to someone yesterday who wanted to come to Switzerland and realized after studying, getting another degree, that Luxembourg was interested in him. So now he's looking at Luxembourg and he's saying, you know what, I may stay there. I may actually enjoy working there and staying there. I may forget about my Swiss destination. So sometimes we're too, and that's the worst in creating opportunity, is to be myopic in just one thing, because you don't see what's everywhere else. So I wouldn't stay so focused on one location. I would say, okay, the world is big. In Switzerland right now, it's too complicated, but maybe Luxembourg would be interesting. Maybe Belgium would be interesting. So there's so many options, even within Europe, that you can look at. And again, if you're watching this and you're young, keep your options open. Get the skills, get the experience, and then you see a little bit who is interested in you, maybe in a couple of years. When you have built your banking expertise in City, in London, or you've built your tech experience in Dublin or something like that, then you can come to Switzerland with some strong skills and experience and be a bit more attractive. So that's another alternative. It's a different, what I call it, step by step. So you don't necessarily have the direct destination, but you do step by step. When I came to Switzerland in 2007, I had worked in the US, I had worked in Paris. So I had built skills and experience that all of a sudden I was able to get a job in Switzerland, but it was with time. If I had applied when I was 20, maybe at that time I wasn't so attractive because I didn't have much to offer. So the more you're building your portfolio, your expertise, the more attractive you get for specific locations. So especially when it's a difficult, picky type of location where you just, you have to come with the right baggage. So Baki Julian is saying, and me, the wife, I want to find a job. If you can provide consulting services to me. Well, you have my website, so you can check my website and see. I have everything there, so you check and see if you want to start a conversation with me. There's links there to book and everything. So, oh, here we go. Currently, I'm in Luxembourg. I thought you were in France, actually. I studied in Paris and Glasgow, mechanical engineering, and want to work for finance. I try to find a way to do that. I have already done an internship in banking in Luxembourg. Well, for me, I don't know. Maybe it's me. I just find that mechanical engineering and finance, I still don't see the link. I know a lot of people say, yeah, mechanical engineering in finance, in banking, apparently there's some jobs you can do there. But it has to be very small percentage of the type of jobs in banking, because for me, when I think about banking, I think about clients, service to clients. I think about being a portfolio manager, selling products. Now I am aware there's a back end to that, and you need security in IT, you need IT engineers and all that. I'm very well aware of that, but it has to be a minor percentage. So yes, they would need those positions, but if I go now and look at UBS in Switzerland or those banks, I'm not sure there would be so many positions. So when someone tells me I'm a mechanical engineer, the logical next step wouldn't be, oh, apply for banking. My logical next step would be industry, would be apply for industry, like car making or, but then again, industry would be more in Germany, in Europe, or maybe a bit in France as well. Luxembourg and Switzerland are more finance countries, but I don't see a huge mechanical, the mechanical part. Maybe if you are a software engineer, I would see. So maybe you see if you're an engineer, if you could pinpoint more to something that's in more demand than mechanical. Mechanical wouldn't be the hot ones within engineering, but software would be. So maybe you can do an extra training or something whilst you're still young and in that mindset. Maybe you do something like software engineering to get more opportunities, would be my thought. Because apparently you're applying for a few jobs, but either the market is not big enough, it's not the ideal time. But if you really, really want to work in Switzerland and you see that there's 20 jobs in software engineering and 5 in mechanical, then maybe that also could help you get more jobs. But anyway, I think software engineering is a bit more a better choice within engineering than mechanical in general. But so it's 2 choices. Either you do more something that's more in high demand within engineering, or you can stay in Luxembourg maybe, or Germany, or markets where they do a bit more, there's a bigger industry sector. And the watchmaking, I'm not sure they hire a lot right now. So they're going also through, market change. So that would have been market potential for you in the jewelry industry or watchmaking. But in finance, I don't think there would be a lot of jobs for mechanical engineering. So just saying. So yeah, I will post below also my website, but you have it everywhere on my YouTube channel if you want to check a little bit what I do. I have Alex Peter who's saying, is it necessary to understand Swiss German, or will it be enough if you learn Germany to be able to work there? And also, how is the market in the pharmacy department? Well, to be taken seriously in Switzerland, you need to speak one of the local languages. So yeah, you do need to bring up your German up to a certain level, and the level is B2. So again, look at the jobs, but if you're going to be especially customer facing, dealing with clients and everything, you need to speak the local language. So you need to bring up your level to a B2. And how is the market in pharma? You can check that on job boards, pharmacy. I don't know if you meant pharmaceutical or pharmacy, like the pharmacy where you buy your medication, because they're two different things. But I imagine you mean pharma. So pharma is probably one of the best, the growing industry at the moment, a bit everywhere. So if you have a profession where you can work in pharma, yeah, you can check the job boards and see if there's anything there and apply. But you will have, I post the link of a few job boards with the private sector, the not-for-profit sector, so you can check. That's really your first step, is to see what is hiring, what kind of jobs are in demand, see a bit what is in demand and required in terms of skills. And then you go and study, learn the language, etc. once you understand a bit more what's needed. But it's really pointless to invest time and energy in learning something that may not be really hot in Switzerland. So see what's in demand, what companies are willing to pay for, and then you can say, okay, now I'm going to invest myself in learning those skills, getting my language to a B2 level, if that's really what you want. Again, if you're focused, you really want it, give yourself a timeline, but also don't be, again, that silo thinking where it's Switzerland or nothing, because you're wasting time in maybe not seeing what's around you. So you can have the Swiss job as the long-term objective, but in the interim, just work towards that. So learn the language, get some experience in countries where it's going to be valued in Switzerland. So for example, if I wanted to enter the banking field in Switzerland, what I would do is that maybe a bit easier is get a degree in finance, study at the city in London, get a lot of experience with a big bank over there, like JP Morgan or one of those. And then when the time comes, when there's an opening, I would migrate to Switzerland with the same company. So that's the easiest way. Get the job where it's easier to get it, and then relocate with the company in Switzerland. And big companies like JP Morgan, now I'm using banking examples like JP Morgan or UBS or something like that. They're a bit everywhere. You just find a job where it's in an easier location to get it. You get the experience there. You learn the language, and then when the right time comes, you just have the company relocate you. You don't have to pay for anything. They take care of you, relocation, everything, and you go to the place where you want to go. That's how I came to Switzerland. I was hired in Paris. I relocated with my company. I had started working 2 months before, and they relocated me all free of charge for me to Switzerland. And that's really the best way for an expatriation, because you don't suffer the cost. You're taken care of. You already know the company that you're going to work for from before. So it's just easy. For me, it's the easiest relocation. Juan Luis Barrea Savrida. Okay, I pronounced it okay. Good afternoon. I'm an administrative professional that made an internship in an international organization in Geneva. Well, congratulations, you made it. Struggling to find admin position since then. Any recommendation? Oh, so you are you made the internship. Okay, so I just need to precise for the audience that the internships in the international organizations are not paid. I don't know if you were in a UN type of format, but at the UN usually they don't pay you. So of course, you can easily get an internship in the UN or anything from abroad. The problem is what you're dealing with right now is that you don't have an actual position. You don't have an actual job that pays you a salary, which is tough when you're relocating from abroad. I mean, you need money to survive. So yeah, I mean, the thing is you're not in a stronger position. So that's why I said if you relocate with the company and they pay for you and everything, you're in a strong position, you're taking care of everything. If you come on your own to do an internship, which already is non-paid, and then you have to suffer the local cost of living, then there's the stress of having to find a job mixed with the market not necessarily providing a lot of positions. So you're in a little bit like your head is barely above the water. So again, I would say what I said 5 minutes ago, keep your options open, give yourself a deadline where you apply for admin positions, but if nothing comes to fruition, just be willing to go somewhere where you're a bit more attractive. So apply a bit to different locations, not just Switzerland, because otherwise you're really putting yourself in a bottleneck there. So always keep your options open. That's the best way for creating opportunities, for having always a safe plan A, plan B. I always have plan A, plan B, plan C. I'm a planner by trade, so I always have different options and different things going on because the market is quite unpredictable and you have to be able to quickly think about doing something else. So if you overly focus on only one thing, first of all, you're not going to be so attractive because when you want something too much, usually you don't get it. So having options where you say, well, if I get this, great, but if I don't get it, it's okay because I have plan B, I have plan C, even plan D. So you're always more attractive when you have several plans. So build your plans. If it doesn't work with the admins in the international organization, and give yourself the deadline maybe of the spring. If you don't get something by spring, you have to have other alternatives. Maybe other countries you can apply for, even within the UN, because UN is everywhere. So maybe there's no position in Geneva, but maybe you can find one in your home country or in another country in Europe. I mean, it's something you have to keep very within the next months. We'll all have to be very agile, I guess is a bit of a buzzword right now, but it's true. I mean, there's going to be a lot of unpredictability with vaccines coming in the beginning of next year, and we don't know exactly. A lot of these organizations will have less funding potentially, so they might lay off more people. So you have to think about all that's going on. It's not just a virus. It's now it's hitting also the economy. So you have to give yourself options to sustain yourself and to move forward. So I hope I answered the question there about keeping your options open. But yeah, for the worker of the 21st, the employee or the person looking for a job in 21st century, agility, keep your options open, always have different things going on, and don't silo into one thing. I mean, just be very open of where the next opportunity can come from, especially if you're not living and working and you have to be in one specific area. I can understand if someone, you're married for 10 years, 20 years, your husband works there or your wife, and you're set in Geneva or in Switzerland, then you have to stay there. But if you're young and you live in another country, and you want to come to Switzerland, but don't over focus on that, keep that as one option, but develop other options as well, like other countries, other opportunities, because again, the market will be tight in 2021. So you want to keep things a bit flexible is the word, I guess. Okay, well, it was a good chat, very busy, lots of questions. So I guess it's helpful. So that's great. And again, I'll post all the links below that I said, the job boards, the videos that I've done for the Swiss market, and the video by Elon Musk that I think would be great to watch. It's a little bit of a different perspective on the job market as well. Okay. Well, I will let you go. See you next time. Have a great afternoon or evening or wherever you are. Morning if it's the US. And I will talk to you soon.